Stretch 5 Podcast, episode 0038. Shout out to Shabazz Muhammad.
Welcome back and welcome into the Stretch 5 Podcast. It's Saturday, January 28th in the year 2017. I'm your host today, Brad Sturgeon, and joining me is a man whose U is mightier than UNC, Mr. Brian McCalla.
Feeling good, man. Team just knocked off, number 9 UNC?
Something like that. One of the top 10 teams in the country for sure, and a title contender as well. You guys are well on your way to building an NCAA resume with a huge win over UNC at home like that.
I'll be getting drunk tonight. Yeah, buddy.
Getting toe up. Our quality control and NBA Coop Insider, Marie Rush, is out digging for roots and fruits at the local grocery. But if this podcast isn't where shopping is a pleasure for you, you can reach us on Twitter. We're at Stretch5Pod, or by email, find us at stretch5podcast@gmail.com. Today, it's drama for your mama all over the basketball panorama. And without further ado, here's X's and O's.
Breaking down the news so you don't have to. This is X's and O's.
As you heard, the segment is called X's and O's. This is the segment where we talk about the games nobody wanted to watch so that you don't have to. Big Voice, what's up first?
NCAA college basketball.
College ball, it's been a huge week. You know, we thought that, Brian, after our huge, I keep using the word huge, after our massive hiatus, and it was massive, after a lengthy and eventful hiatus that we had for almost 2 months, releasing a podcast episode, that in this interim week, and I mean, it's more like a week and a half because it took us a while to get this first one back in, but in those 2 weeks, you would have thought there wouldn't be a lot going on in a specific sport after so long with so much news and so many big happenings in the break, you know?
I mean, speak for yourself. I feel like we came back at just the right time.
Right as the season heated up, for sure. You know, right as things finally got exciting once again in the college basketball and NBA world, and certainly college basketball hasn't let its foot off the gas since we returned. We've been back for going on now 2-ish weeks, and let me just tell you, this Duke thing has blown sky high. Everyone knows there was the Dylan Brooks and Grayson Allen thing to cap off a bad season for Grayson Allen last season. He, of course, led the team to a national championship in 2015, followed it up with a good year, but kind of a letdown, and a year full of tripping and kicking and just bad attitude all around for the Duke star. And this season he came in with aspirations to be the National Player of the Year. He was an All-American candidate preseason, and he's been poking, tripping, punching, slapping the bench, and he's been a nuisance this entire season.
And that's not even the biggest story right now, if you ask me. I couldn't believe what you told me before we got in here and started recording the podcast about how Coach K is reacting to his team losing these games.
Well, a couple factoids on that. First off, in case you've been living under a rock that isn't painted blue, a rock that's bigger than Cameron Indoor, which isn't hard, but in case you're not living under that rock, Duke has had their coach sit out for the last couple weeks with back surgery. Coach K, of course, is notorious for having back problems. I mean, I say notorious. He's infamous and notorious for having them only because he seems to always have back problems flare up when his team stinks. Now, whether that's because he can't coach as effectively when his back hurts, or maybe he's using that as, we don't want to be rude, but a flop. Well, in either case.
Is he still currently out?
Yeah, he's still not coaching the team. He's expected to be back in the next week.
But he can discipline them.
Yeah, he'll be back in time for UNC is basically what I understand, which is early February. However, in the interim, Jeff Capel's come in to coach. He was the head coach at Oklahoma before he came on as an assistant at Duke, and it's been disastrous. I believe he's been 2-3 in his time as the interim coach for Duke, and Duke's been 3-4 in the ACC. They now have 5 losses on the season, 15-5. Because they're Duke and the name on the front of their jersey, they're still ranked number 17 in the country, but that's looking to change because they lost a big, nasty home game to NC State. Not a pretty loss at all for the resume. And they have to play at Wake Forest tonight, and they go to Notre Dame to start the week next week. So it's a tough road schedule for the Blue Devils, considering they now, they've got a couple players who aren't playing great. This team doesn't have a point guard. Their guys are all wanting all the shots, and they don't have their coach.
I mean, can you imagine if they lost this game to Wake Forest tonight?
It would be a massive upset, and it would also not be totally surprising. Wake Forest is better than people give them credit for. They're not great, but they aren't completely awful either.
I mean, I can't really speak because, I mean, we lost to Wake Forest on their home floor. I think they pretty much killed us that game.
Yeah, I mean, everyone in the ACC is pretty much deadly if they're not Boston College, honestly. Even Georgia Tech just knocked off, who'd they just beat, Notre Dame?
Notre Dame.
I mean, college basketball this season, especially in a couple of different conferences, those being mostly the ACC, the Pac-12, and the Big Ten, everybody can beat anybody else. Nothing. I'm
starting to see why everybody loves March Madness because we're not even at that point yet.
Yeah.
And just craziness is happening left and right.
I'm bringing you into the fold, man. This is where it's at. This is the part of the season when it gets really exciting. If you're a hardcore like me, you get sucked in early November when they start doing those non-con tournaments, and that's because you get to see all these one-off teams like, an Iowa State, like a Louisville, like Virginia, like, I don't know, Baylor. And you see them in November before people really know what they're about. And they go up against other conferences and play each other in these, Battle for Atlantis, Champions Classic, whatever. And you get to see what they're all about.
Right.
So having said all that, Coach K apparently watched them lose to NC State at home, in Cameron Indoor, and was pissed because he called them to his house while he wasn't the coach and had them all gather around with their, scholarships and their no stipend and no money being given to them by Duke University. And he said to them, "You're not living up to Duke standards, so you have to turn in all your Duke apparel, and also you can't use the locker room."
Like, what is that?
I know we buried the lead on that story a little bit, but my God, it doesn't even matter when you let that bomb drop. Look, man, you're at one of the richest universities in the country, and your players are high-level, high-performance athletes, elite stars who are going to play at the next level for most of them. Future millionaires. And you, as a millionaire coach, have the gall to come into them and say, you can't wear your clothes anymore and you can't get dressed in the locker room. I mean, it's childish and it's immature and it's an extremely manipulative move. Now, it might work, but...
Because, I mean, even they're student athletes. They're not professional athletes playing in the NBA. It's not like it's their job every single day, 24 hours a day.
If the debate team at Duke doesn't perform up to Duke's standards, are they not allowed to wear Duke, colors or go prep for their debate in the study hall? Like,
you are not allowed in the library.
dorm?
Get out.
Right? Like, what kind of nonsense is that? Now, to be fair, this is all child's play compared to some of the other things that are going on in the college world right now. You got Baylor and Kansas both embroiled in various assault and rape scandals right now. So, while we make light and poke fun at Coach K and Duke and Grayson Allen and all that, at the end of the day, this stuff isn't really that important. It's just Duke being Duke. Like, it's just them being, you just want to smack them and be like, come on, man. Like, did Coach K get in there in that meeting with all the players? And did he smack the floor? Like, I imagine he has a big Duke like center court logo in his living room, like on a carpet,
right?
Like a print. I imagine he got in there and slapped the floors and said, "Take off your Duke jerseys, get out of here."
If that's supposed to bring a team together and get them to play better on the court, then bravo to him. But I don't see how taking away apparel, telling them that they're not playing up to Duke standards is going to really get them to motivate and to go out there and play better basketball.
If you tried to take the jersey off of Grayson Allen, do you think Grayson Allen flopped?
He might go over there and trip Coach K.
Yeah, right. He falls over and kicks him in the nads. That's a good thing Coach K is like 80 already, so.
Right. Be hurting his back even more.
Good grief. Moving on from that subject, because, I mean, as silly as that is, that subject matter is just it's just stupid. Like, it's just Duke doing the most Duke thing possible. And they're going to come out and they're going to be wearing their little white, pennies to warm up for the game. And they're going to be slapping the floor and slapping each other and hugging. And, they come off the court, they'll be kissing each other and weird, just the most European Eurostep flop nonsense. Just Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker. I know Manu Ginobili is not European.
No, he's not.
But you know what I'm talking about.
I get your point, yeah.
Yeah, some of that college Spurs basketball. Next up, I want to touch on this Carlton Bragg Jr. situation at Kansas. So we talked in the podcast. I'm not sure if this one hit the airwaves or not. I think it might be one of our
I don't think
episodes.
it did because I remember we recorded this one at my house.
Yeah, I think
and
this
none of those made it to the podcast feed.
Yeah, I think this is like episode 34 or something like that. So you can't check it out, but maybe one day you will be able to. If
We'll
we can
fill
get
you in.
Yeah, if we manage to get those things into a state where we can actually upload them, then you better believe that I'm going to get your attention and let you know that they're up on the internet somewhere. But for now, they aren't. And we talked about this, how Carlton Bragg was accused of assaulting his girlfriend, I believe, hitting her and pushing her down the stairs, I believe. Like, the accusation was that she started a fight and he hit her back and then pushed her down the stairs.
Right.
Turns out that those charges were dropped because she initiated the fight, and I think there was video or something to that effect where she came out and when she was lying, like clearly there were witnesses
And
saying
I actually think the charges kind of got reversed, and they were pressing them on her.
Yeah. Well, now, today, or rather on Thursday, we found out that he is indefinitely suspended as Carlton Bragg Jr. Once again, this is the second time he's been indefinitely suspended, and the third indefinite suspension for a major program this season. 2 of them at Kansas now for the same guy, Carlton Bragg Jr. No reason given. Just
no reason at all.
Indefinite suspension. Coach Bill Self did take the time to say that it was not related to these other completely separate rape charges at the players' dorm on Kansas, where 5 Kansas players are involved in the investigation of rape charges of a minor, a 16-year-old, in the dorm. But they are all being listed as witnesses and not suspects.
These are current players?
Yes, on the roster right now.
Those players aren't suspended either?
No, they're not suspended because he made it clear they're not suspects.
They're just witnesses to something that happened.
Right, which could mean, as I've come to understand it, that they may have just been in the common room and the person who's under investigation was walking through in the dorm and they were in the same room.
Wrong time type of deals.
Yeah, saw him, said, oh, hey, or was just in the same room. That apparently can count as being a witness when they're trying to gather information. So, we're obviously holding judgment on all of that, but it doesn't look good to have Carlton Bragg Jr. suspended a second time indefinitely in the same season. I mean, that never happens. That also usually means he's not coming back.
It's not a good look to not give a reason either. I mean, that just makes you suspicious of exactly what happened.
Yeah.
It leads to speculation.
That makes you wonder what the heck's going on at that program. You got 5 guys as witnesses to a underage rape. You got a guy who was, even though the charge was dropped, he was in a fist fight more or less with a girlfriend. Double indefinite suspension. I mean,
how many times are you going to indefinitely suspend somebody before just kicking them off the team?
Yeah, when can we just definitely suspend them?
This is like a 3-strike rule in Kansas. What's going on there?
I mean, yeah, it's a very bizarre situation. So we'll have to see. He's not playing against Kentucky today, which, I'm happy that we're probably going to win this game since it's at home, but it's weird situation.
If you ask me, it sounds like a program that's caring a little bit more about their basketball program than what's going on around them.
Shades of Baylor is what I would say. Shades of Baylor. Because
and that Baylor situation is bad.
It's awful. What was it? 50 plus rapes or something?
Like,
I mean, how?
When I first saw that, I thought it was a typo. I was like, what? 52?
Speaking of improper sexual behavior.
Perfect timing. Oh my gosh.
On our screen in the in the spare bedroom apartment studio.
If you look up inappropriate comments in the dictionary, you have a picture of Brent Musburger
sitting next to Dickie V calling a basketball game, which is what we just looked up at and saw. They're calling the Florida-Oklahoma game for the Big 12 SEC Challenge. Florida is stomping out the Sooners right now. They're up by
what I kind of
15.
just realized, he's calling this Oklahoma game, which is those comments that he made about the Oklahoma football player who hit that girl.
Well, funny thing, he already mentioned football like 4 times in the first half. He can't go a game, although it's kind of sad because Brent Musburger is also retiring next week. His last game is Kentucky playing Georgia, and we're listening to this game, and Dickie V, Dickie V is Dickie V, baby. He's excited all the time. It doesn't matter what he's talking about. Yeah, diaper dandies, all that kind of stuff. Brent Musburger's usually, and he's got the basketball, and, he's a basketball player, and I've put a bet down on this one, and you can bet the spread, all that kind of stuff. You're looking live at a basketball arena.
Makes you wonder if his retirement was forced by the company.
Because he sounds sad. Like, Dickie V
he
still...
sounds like he doesn't want to be there right now.
Yeah, Dickie V's still, he's popping around, he's energetic, and then, Brent Musburger's just very, very monotone, very sad.
I've never heard him like that.
Low energy, man. He's usually one of these guys who's bouncy, who's ready to go for the game, and it doesn't sound like it sounds like either he missed the bet, his bookie, screwed up the timing, and he wasn't able to get one in for the spread on this game, or he doesn't want to be retired. I mean, he's going to work in Vegas for his family's sports betting company.
Yeah, he's gonna be joined by Al Michaels pretty soon.
In the world's biggest secret that everybody knew, he had money in all the games, but. Best of luck to him, even though I can't stand him when he calls games. Best of luck to him because he is an iconic figure in sports history. It'll be sad to lose him. I mean, kind of like when we lose, Rafferty, Bill Rafferty, or Dickie V, or any of these guys. It's sad. Bill Walton eventually is gonna bow out, and some people will love that. Others will.
What's his name that does the SEC football? Vern something.
Vern Lundquist. Yeah, he's done too. He just retired. That one was a big loss. Even though as a Kentucky football fan, you rarely got to hear him speak.
He called very little of your games.
Contractually obligated to call a game every other year for us.
Oh, man.
Either way, it is sad to lose him, and it is sad, this whole Carlton Bragg Jr. situation, because the kid's got a lot of talent. He's also one of their only valid big men this season. They don't have a lot of depth when it comes to the inside game, and they had Azubuike get knocked out for the entire year with an injury. Now Carlton Bragg Jr. is sitting indefinitely, and since this is the second one of those, you got to think something else came up, either a character thing, or maybe it's the case that something else popped up with that investigation.
What's his status? Like sophomore, junior?
I think he's a freshman, actually. He might be a sophomore. I'm actually not sure about that.
So it makes you wonder if after this season, if he doesn't play again, if he's just going to go ahead and enter himself into the NBA draft.
Oh, he's going to the draft for sure. Yeah, I don't think.
But then again, you're going to have these NBA teams wondering what type of character he is and what type of person he is off the court. Because when you're in the NBA, it's you. It's up to you to handle yourself in a professional manner.
But you can hire people to help you with that stuff, and I'm sure these NBA teams do try and hire guys to keep these guys in line.
They actually do have seminars, too, for rookies that coming into the league on how to handle certain situations.
That's the thing, though. The other thing I'm thinking there is I think in this case it's a situation where having less free time is a good thing. Like, you have free time in the NBA like you wouldn't in college, but the free time is supposed to be focused on, it should be focused if you want to be a great player, on bettering yourself. I think guys relish that challenge and that ability to focus solely on the basketball side. I think a lot of these college guys don't want to be in class. They don't want to be studying. They don't want to be taking these stupid tests. And they're like, look, I'm a basketball player. I'm not a scholar. I'm a quote-unquote student athlete, but that doesn't really mean anything. That means I sit in some stupid E-class for 3 hours a week and then go play basketball, So
you think being in the NBA helps those guys focus more on the court stuff and not kind of venture off the court?
I think they're more focused on what they want to do. I think forcing them to focus on classes is kind of silly. Like,
well, I mean, yeah, but at the same time, half the time that these teams have shoot-arounds before a game is to make sure that their guys are not out partying all night long and coming in, drunk off their ass.
True, but I think that it's also a culture thing. Like, you don't have to be two people in the NBA. You have to be yourself. You have to be a basketball player. Yep. When you're in college, you got to be a basketball player and the face of the program and a student athlete and all this other garbage. Like, I mean, who cares about a curfew to get in your dorm room? When you're dunking on, in this case, the Big 12, when you're dunking on Baylor and you're on SportsCenter and you're a top 10 and, you're going to be a lottery pick and all this other stuff. And they're like, but make sure you get to your home ec class at 7 a.m. Like, who wants that garbage,
I mean, young kids, they're rebellious. I mean, they they do things that they want to do and they don't do things that they don't want to do. I think I saw a story the other day, just kind of off topic, about a 4-star recruit going to visit Ohio State, and he gets arrested for marijuana possession. Like, some of these kids just don't think. They don't think before they go out and do something.
Dumb move on his part. I mean, look, Yeah, these kids are rebellious. They're going to do what they want to do, and when they do, sometimes they get indefinitely suspended, and sometimes it's twice in one season.
I just find it odd that they're not given any reason to why he's indefinitely suspended. It makes you wonder, how bad is it?
It's probably a police culpability thing. They're probably not allowed to talk because if they give details, it would infringe on some investigation. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully he was just caught, smoking weed or something stupid like that. But we won't know for a while, probably. On the other hand, it might be the case where this is one of those program enders where, like, all of a sudden Bill Self is done and the whole Kansas thing comes flaming down because there were 4 or 5 guys doing horrible shit, and it just wasn't caught until Carlton Bragg Jr. stuck his nose where it shouldn't have gone. So yeah. We'll have to see on that one. But speaking of teams that are sticking their noses where they shouldn't go, this week in college basketball, this calendar week in college basketball has been nuts. If you follow it like I do, and not a lot of people follow it like I do, but, 14 teams out of the top 25 have taken a loss this week. Let me repeat that. 14 teams out of the top 25 have taken a loss. 11 teams have not lost this week out of the top 25. That includes a team who's undefeated. So really, it's like 10 teams out of the top 25 haven't lost this week. 14 of them have. I'm going to go through those 14 now. Number 1, Villanova. Number 2, Kansas. Number 4, Kentucky. Number 6, Florida State. Number 8, UCLA. Number 9, North Carolina. Number 13, Louisville. Number 14, Notre Dame. Number 16, Creighton. Number 17, Duke. Number 18, West Virginia. Number 23, South Carolina. Number 24, Xavier. And number 25, Florida have all lost in the last 7 days.
Meanwhile, Gonzaga's like, what's up, bitches?
Yeah, Gonzaga's like 21, 22-0. They're like, we're beating up Pepperdine. We're wailing on the Pilots. Portland. What up, though?
Pat yourself on the back, Gonzaga.
Yeah, right. The last time we beat a team that was ranked was like 2 months ago. But this has been a crazy season. That's what I'm talking about when I'm saying bringing you into the fold. Like, this is a good time to get into it because it's wild right now. All these teams are beating each other up and all these conferences are nuts. The races are going all over the place. Bill Walton's in 7 states on the same day. Like, it's absolutely great for the sport when this kind of stuff happens. Now, if you're a fan like me of an individual team that's ranked, not so much. We didn't really enjoy losing to Tennessee. That's a rival team. We don't like dropping the ball, and nothing sucks like a big orange.
Wasn't there some pretty bad officiating in that game, though?
That game was hot garbage, but it's hard to blame the refs. I mean, the officiating was bad both ways, but it did seem there's a 3-point bias in college basketball, and that was more or less the margin. So what are you going to do?
Right.
On that note, what we are going to do is move on to our next subject. Big Voice, what's up next?
NBA.
All right, so if you thought the NCAA had drama, let's step over to the NBA where the drama is plentiful. I mean, you got LeBron and the Cavs on a losing streak. You got a mess in Chicago, and then you have Carmelo and a whole bunch of trade rumors. But first, let's go ahead and talk about LeBron and what's going on there in Cleveland.
Well, losing is what's going on in Cleveland, I think.
Absolutely. Until last night when they beat Brooklyn, they were on a 3-game losing streak. They had lost 6 out of their last 8 games, and they are not even playing 500 basketball right now. Their last 10 games, they're 4-6.
I saw a stat that in January, I think it's Atlanta and the 76ers have the best record in the NBA. They're both like 8 or 9 and 2 or something like that.
Well, if we're speaking about hot teams, the hottest team right now is Miami Heat. Just to throw that out there.
That's true.
6 wins in a row. 5 games back of the 8th spot. But that's off topic. Let's get
it's a
back.
Good time to be a Miami fan, right?
Exactly.
Y'all got in the playoffs in the NFL.
We're feeling good. Feeling good after a horrible summer. We're feeling good.
Hey, right?
But it seems like it's a yearly occurrence with Cleveland where they kind of hit a funk in January, February, and everybody's asking the questions, what's wrong with LeBron? What's wrong with Cleveland? And this all kind of started, you kind of have to kind of blame LeBron because after their loss, I think, to Sacramento when they lost in overtime, he kind of went on a little rant talking about how he needs another playmaker on the team. Let's remind you guys that he has Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love. They just traded for Kyle Korver, but yet he feels like they're still missing pieces. And so Now what the stories are coming out as is that he's kind of feuding with Dan Gilbert over their payroll and what they're spending to get guys into Cleveland to make themselves a better team.
Yeah, I mean, and the funny thing about that is he just signed a deal that was counterintuitive to him wanting control of this team. He just signed a multi-year extension, I believe.
Yeah.
Like, what is it, 2 years? Something like that? 3 years?
I think it was 3 years.
I don't know why he did that.
But listen to these numbers that Dan Gilbert is having to pay. So in 2014, he paid $82 million in salary, $7 million in luxury tax. Last year, he paid $107 million in payroll and $54 million in luxury tax. This season, he's paying $127 million in payroll and $27 million in luxury tax.
I cut that luxury tax in half.
I don't know how they did that.
I don't know. I have no idea how that nonsense works.
I don't know how that works either.
That's for a statistical auditor nerd podcast.
But for stories to come out that LeBron is feuding with Dan Gilbert over what he's spending to make this team better, that's just crazy. I mean, they have the highest payroll in NBA history, not just this season, in NBA history. And so it makes you wonder, like, what kind of guys do they need to bring in to make this a better team? Is it more of a role player to kind of give LeBron less of a wear during a game? Because I think he's playing close to 40 minutes a game still.
Yes.
And you wouldn't think that'd be the case playing alongside Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving. I think they do miss J.R. Smith. That's a guy that can get his own shot, can knock down open shots, and can get on a hot streak on his own. But, you know, from what LeBron is saying, they need like another veteran point guard to back up Kyrie Irving, because I think that will help kind of keep the ball out of LeBron's hand and not have to have him be that point guard throughout the game.
We were talking about that they're missing Dellavedova for sure off the bench. And they were looking for guys who might be able to come in and do some work for them. I'm trying to think who it was we were talking about in terms of names for those backup point guards.
Well, I just saw a report come out that Cleveland is kind of interested in, they mentioned Sheldon Mack, who plays over in Utah right now.
Former
I think he
Duke
actually
player.
went to Butler with Gordon Hayward. And even
no, you're right. I was
even,
thinking another guy played for Duke with a name Sheldon.
And even Jameer Nelson, his name was brought up. He plays in Denver right now, and he's a veteran point guard. So their moves are limited because of what they're paying already in payroll and luxury tax. So it's not like they can make a huge trade to get a big-time name to come in there and solidify that team.
Well, you can see both sides of the argument, because on one hand, if you're Cleveland, you've got LeBron's best point guard, and it's not close, in his entire career, is on his team right now, and it's not close. Kyrie Irving is, worlds better than any point guard he's ever played with, and that's not a knock on, Mario Chalmers. That's not real. It's not a knock on the other guys, even though the other guys weren't great that he played with. That sort of peanut gallery of Cavaliers he ran with, and Norris Cole at Miami and all those guys.
Right.
Rather, Kyrie Irving is a legitimate, star in the making and potentially a superstar, and he is the point guard right now. The problem is they have no depth. And on the other hand, though, if you're defending LeBron, it's not hard to do. Just look at his numbers, man. Yeah, a lot of his efficiency numbers are down, but he's averaging 25.7 points, 7.9 rebounds, and 8.5 assists. He's almost averaging a triple-double for the season. I mean, you can't really put that on him because he's doing a little bit of everything. Yeah, he's not finals LeBron, but he's never finals LeBron this time of the year. Part of the problem has been injuries. Part of it is they traded some guys away. Part of it is Kyle Korver hasn't gelled as well as they would have liked him to. Ultimately, their defense is in need of a major rehaul because right now it's not good. You can't give up 115 or whatever it was to the Kings. You can't be, giving up averaging like almost 100 points a game.
They gave up over 100 points to Brooklyn last night. They're just lucky that they scored 128 to win the game.
They're lucky that Brooklyn is a garbage, bin.
Yeah. So you can't knock LeBron for his play because he's out there doing what he usually does during a regular season.
Yeah.
And we speak about Kyrie Irving being the point guard, but he's not really a true point guard. He's going out there and he's looking to create for himself first rather than dishing it out like a Chris Paul.
Yeah.
And so that's why at times you're having to see LeBron bring the ball up and kind of initiate the offense to get other guys involved. Because a lot of times you're seeing Kyrie Irving taking somebody off the dribble, holding the ball for 20 seconds and then making a move to the basket.
I guess if that's what you're talking about when you're talking about a playmaker, you're not talking about a guy who can make a play. You're talking about a guy who can create a play for his teammates.
Yeah, because that's essentially what LeBron is having to do without somebody like that on the team. Yeah, Kyrie Irving can average, double-digit assists from time to time throughout the season, but that's not his strong suit.
We talked about at the end of the season, maybe they pick up Wade or something crazy like that, or if they got Wade and Carmelo, like that would be unreal.
That would be something. Yeah.
I don't know how they pay all those guys, but I could see LeBron talking Carmelo and Wade into taking smaller. I could see even LeBron talking even Carmelo Anthony into taking a slightly smaller contract and saying, look, you've got money. You have so much money now. You were one of the highest paid athletes to ever play the game. And the only thing you're missing, your entire career resume, your legacy, is that ring. That NBA ring, because you've got a national championship at Syracuse. You have that ring already. You've got a whole bunch of gold medals and a bronze from the Olympics. You have made your name in the international game. The only thing you're missing as a scoring champion, all-star, a repetitive all-star, is that NBA title. And you want to win one, you ain't getting in the East unless you come through us.
The problem with that is, both those guys are under huge contracts. It's not like they can just scrap those contracts and be like, hey, let's sign a new one here. I think Carmelo's still under contract for 2 more years and like $54 million. And Wade just signed a 2-year deal where he can opt out for another $23 million. So they would have to pay those guys. And Cleveland actually went after Wade in the summer, but they can only offer him $2.9 million. And so, Wade already has rings. Wade already has rings. He's not ring chasing for $2.9 million.
Who is it we said they were looking at trading for Kevin Love?
It was Carmelo.
That was Carmelo. Yeah, man, that's such a weird trade though, because they're just nowhere near the same player.
And that's actually a perfect transition as we move over to Carmelo's trade rumors. But so we all know the turmoil in New York, the super team New York, New York Knicks.
Oh, yeah.
So, Phil Jackson, Carmelo Anthony going back and forth. They actually had a meeting where Phil reportedly asked Carmelo, do you still want to be here? And so reports came out that Carmelo told him that, yeah, I still want to be in New York. And then all of a sudden you hear these trade rumors come out where Phil Jackson is pretty much just shopping Carmelo to different teams, whether it be, I heard rumors about the Celtics, the Cavaliers, and the LA Clippers. And so this Clippers one is actually pretty interesting because that seems to be the one that's getting the most traction.
Who would they trade for?
That's what's interesting about it, because they're saying that they would make a deal that did not involve Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, or DeAndre Jordan.
Really?
They're talking about getting guys back like J.J. Redick, Jamal Crawford, Austin Rivers.
Really?
Yeah.
Someone's prying Austin Rivers from daddy's hands.
Yeah, so it's crazy, but it's something that could happen, but they would have to get a third team involved in order to make that type of deal go down.
Here I was thinking it was going to be one of these picks trades where they got a bunch of picks back because the Zen Master loves to try and look like he's smarter than the room by getting guys in picks and drafting them.
And if I'm the Clippers, from their mindset, it's almost like if we get Carmelo, maybe that gets Chris Paul to stay in LA because those two guys are really good friends.
And then you got a big four going.
Yeah, because I saw something the other day where they can't even trade Blake Griffin to New York because that violates some type of rule in the CBA where you can't have 2 max players on the same. I don't know. I'm not going to try and explain that. I just read it somewhere.
Again, if you want, nerdy statistical transaction podcast, you're going to have to go somewhere else because that is not our forte.
This is not the podcast.
We just talk shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
We don't know shit, but we do talk it. Stretch 5. We do know shit, but we don't talk it. Or wait, the other way around. Something like that.
Right. So it'll be interesting to see as we get closer to the trade deadline what happens with Carmelo, because at the end of the day, he's going to have the last say because he has a no trade clause in his contract. Yeah. So he'll get to pick and choose where he wants to go if indeed he's looking to get onto a contender and actually compete for an NBA title.
Seems like it could shake things up potentially. On the other hand, he could just take another massive contract with New York and call it a day.
And who knows, maybe Cleveland revisits this whole Carmelo for Kevin Love deal that the Knicks were knocking at their door with.
I mean, you take one player out of the trash can and put another one in.
Oh, boy. Yep. And on that note, let's move to another trash can situation, the Chicago Bulls.
Oh, it is a burning trash can, man.
I mean, my God, what is going on in Chicago?
What's up with these super teams this year?
It's just not working out for them. It's not. So the Bulls, they lost again last night. They lost to the eventual champs, Miami Heat. Just kidding.
Your upcoming 8th seed.
But it was another bad loss for them. I mean, at one point, Miami was up by 20 points. And at the end of the game, Chicago fans were booing their team off the court.
Well, to be fair, their team had been booing themselves for the last month in terms of talking to the media.
So let's kind of fill you guys in on how this all started. So they've been playing mediocre basketball. And so after a loss to Atlanta, where they were up by like 10 points with 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
We both couldn't believe they lost that game. We were looking at our phones like, oh, this game's over. And you flip to something else because you're like, this is going to suck. Like,
got the notification.
Foul fest. Yeah. And then you get that ESPN pop-up where it's like, the Heat or the Bulls stunned by the Hawks. You're like, what?
Yeah, I had no idea how they lost that game. Yeah. So after the game in the locker room, it's almost like Jimmy Butler and Wade kind of planned this out. They both come out and pretty much criticize the team and the players. You have, Jimmy Butler saying that, if we lose games and this doesn't make you angry, you shouldn't be playing this game. Like, this is our job. You should be wanting to be the best at what you can do to help the team out. And then you have Wade out here saying things that I have never heard him say since he's been in the league.
Like what?
Saying things like, I don't think some of these guys take the job seriously. I'm a guy with, 3 rings, been in the league for 14 years, and I feel like I'm taking this game more seriously than a lot of these younger guys. It was kind of shocking to hear him say those type of things because I've never seen him that down on his squad before. And so it kind of rubbed some of the guys within the locker room the wrong way. You had Rajon Rondo taking to Instagram and posting just a rant about how his vets would never go to the media when he was in Boston. And so now you have Rondo going at Jimmy Butler and Wade.
Glue guy, Rajon Rondo.
Exactly, the glue guy. And then just today I saw a report that Taj Gibson kind of came out. I guess he was talking to a reporter, and he was saying that some of the younger guys had an issue with the amount of practice time that Dwayne Wade misses. And I'm like, Allen Iverson practice?
Yeah, I mean, no, I know for you it's conflicting because that's your guy. The Flash is like definitely probably your favorite player in terms of NBA basketball. Certainly active, maybe ever. But by any measure, it's a fair complaint if they're saying, if Wade on one hand is saying these guys don't, they don't work, they don't get mad, they don't work as hard, our guys never missed it, and then on the other hand, he's not coming into practice. And the problem is we live in a Twitter universe now. Like, you can't just say that anymore because the young guys will totally be like, no, check it out.
Yeah, like these things are brought to the light.
Yeah, they'll tweet that
before
fire.
Twitter and all the social media. None of this stuff was getting out to the media and being posted on social media platforms.
I don't think Wade anticipated that it was going to be getting out on Twitter like that or out on social media. And so these young guys are like, they're putting a flame emoji next to a snake emoji. Something like that.
Right, exactly. That's what they're doing now. And so after that loss last night to the Heat, I actually saw reports coming out that the Bulls are taking calls for Rondo, Taj Gibson, Nikola Mirotic, and Dwayne Wade as far as for trades. I don't think they're going to trade Jimmy Butler because if they trade Jimmy Butler, you can bet that Dwayne Wade is not opting in to stay there in Chicago.
Can they trade Fred Hoiberg? Can I get a name right today?
They don't need to trade it. They need to fire him. That's what they need to do because it doesn't seem like Fred Hoiberg has any control over the locker room.
Yeah.
I think I showed you a clip the other day against the game in Atlanta where Hoiberg is trying to tell Jimmy Butler to call a timeout, and Jimmy's like, for what?
Yep.
No, I'm not calling a timeout.
F that.
And then in the locker room, you have a reporter asking Dwayne Wade, does Fred have control over the team? And he's telling you need to go ask Fred that.
When a reporter asks, does your coach have control over the team, you already know the answer. You're just begging the question.
You're just looking for a headline to put out there.
Rhetorical at that point.
And Wade gave it to him. Like, he didn't say yes.
And Fred Hoiberg's my guy. Like, I think he's an excellent coach. I just think sometimes these things don't work both ways. Some guys are way better at one side than they are the other. I mean, you have 2 Hall of Famers in Rick Pitino and John Calipari who are excellent coaches at the college level who bombed out at the NBA level. And you've had to go the other way, too. Not as much because it's a better gig to be an NBA coach. It's the top of the top. Right. But all the same, it's a different world, and sometimes these guys just do not do as well. And it looks like, unfortunately, Fred Hoiberg is adjusting to the NBA about as well as his former star Royce White did.
That didn't turn out pretty good, did it?
No, too much anxiety. God, I can't speak today.
So we'll see what happens with the Bulls, but right now it's just a hot mess of garbage. Nothing is going good for them.
It's a dumpster fire.
Yeah, they got the Sixers coming into town next. Who knows what's going to happen if they lose that game?
One more win, and your Miami Heat will be have a better record than the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Hey, we're only 5 games back of that 8th spot,
That's
which is
amazing.
held by the Bulls.
That's amazing.
I think the Bulls have 25 losses,
They're
and we have 30.
25,
We have
yeah.
30 losses, so we're not that far behind.
It's gonna. I just have this weird feeling it's gonna come down to you guys and the 76ers for that 8 spot, and we're gonna be so torn.
Right? You're going to be torn. I ain't going to be torn.
I am gonna be torn.
I do like the Sixers, but when it comes to trying to make the playoffs, it's Heat all day.
Hey, you got to represent.
Exactly.
South
All right, Big
Beach.
Voice. I think we got one more topic. What we got next?
NBA All-Star Weekend.
Just about maybe a week or two ago, they announced the All-Star starters, and they also went ahead and a couple of days ago announced the reserves for the teams.
Yep.
Some interesting picks, some interesting snubs. For the East, you have the starters, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jimmy Butler, LeBron James, DeMar DeRozan, and Kyrie Irving. On the West side, you have James Harden, Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, and Anthony Davis. Any problems with those?
I think that Curry should be out, and
You would think that.
well, and Westbrook should be in. I mean, if you just even just looking
But
at the
I have to agree
stats,
with you on that.
Like,
I have to
I
agree
am a
with you.
known. I'm not going to deny that I'm a Curry hater, a Warriors hater. I am but just the same, I can't get behind them leaving out Westbrook when he is probably it's him or Harden for MVP. Like, yes, the Warriors have a great record, but so do like 4 other teams in the West right now. You can't just reward one team. Well, unless you're Silicon Valley Warrior fans who are going to blindly vote. I say as I vote for all Kentucky guys every year in the All-Star ballot.
And I think I have to agree with you because I think Russell Westbrook was a snub.
Russell Westbrook.
His name is so hard to say when you're trying to say it real quick.
But you got Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Somehow
perfectly.
that's easier for me than Russell Westbrook. I don't know.
It just rolls right off your tongue, right?
Yep, it's
Antetokounmpo.
smooth.
Well, I get him and Russell Wilson mixed up all the time. So
You and Adam Stern.
yeah, right. And the NBA commissioner.
Right. But I think he did get snubbed as not being a starter based on what he's doing so far in the regular season. And I think that mainly has to do with the amount of fans that Steph Curry has.
All the bandwagoners for
Both
sure.
Golden State fans and
Yeah.
the bandwagon fans that have hopped on that bandwagon.
And the system that we have set up for this thing where it's 3 guards and 2 bigs. I
Right.
mean, yeah, the bigs are important, but if you've got 4 or 5 guards who are clearly 1 through 5, I don't see why they shouldn't be starters and just subbing a big guy. Like, it's not a real game. Like,
Exactly. Yeah. They tried to change it up this year where the fan vote didn't mean as much as, say, a player's vote or, coach's vote. They kind of split it down the middle. But
and
at
we
the
saw
same
how
time,
that worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the players were probably doing the same thing fans were, voting for themselves maybe.
Oh, I'm sure.
So it's a weird system, but at the end of the day, it's just an exhibition game.
Yeah.
What I'm going to love, and I hope Steve Kerr does this since he's the coach of the Western Conference, I hope he plays Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and Russell Westbrook all at the same time.
So Westbrook's options are to drive or pass to a.
And I hope he never passes the ball when he
won't
gets
pass.
it.
He won't pass. I'm calling it now. He has like 1 assist, and it's to, let's see, who else is on that West roster? Who could he pass it to? Not James Harden, probably. He's passing it to, gosh.
Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, that's the only unoffensive one on the roster. Him or Marcus Saul.
That's got to be so uncomfortable when he's sitting on that bench. Like, he's probably going to be at one end, and they'll probably have to put KD at the other end. Like, that's got to be so weird.
I just realized that he can only pass to the white guys on his own team.
This All-Star game is going to be great.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be lots of drama. I have no idea what's going to happen in it, but I am excited to watch for sure.
You have any issues on the East side?
East side, I do actually. I have 2 major objections on the reserves. I can't believe that Dwayne Wade didn't get in, and I equally can't believe that Joel Embiid did not make the cut. And I tell you, it's easy for me for the 2 guys you would cut. You would get rid of Kemba Walker in a heartbeat. Yeah, he's playing well, but I mean, he doesn't feel like an all-star to me. And
he had a better season last year than he did so far this season.
Well, and then I'd also take Paul Millsap. Just get Paul Millsap out of here. Like, what are we doing putting Paul Millsap on this roster?
Right. You haven't heard? I haven't heard anything about Paul Millsap this season.
No, He's been a good player on a mediocre team, you know.
And really, I might get rid of Kevin Love too.
Maybe. Kevin Love has had a good season. He hasn't been as good as he was like in the playoffs last year, but by the same token, he's shooting it better, to be fair, than he was last year. And I mean, it's a hard position to find better guys than him. Like,
True.
Not bigs necessarily, but those forwards. What other forwards in the East are you taking instead of Kevin Love?
You're right, because essentially, if the only guy I can think of if he was playing would probably be Chris Bosh.
Yeah, and Chris is out. I mean, if you're talking about bigs, I would take Embiid. I would probably take, I would say not Nerlens Noel. He's not nearly good enough to replace Kevin Love. There's really not a. The problem is the East is so weird where there's a lot of really great guards. John
Do
Wall,
we consider
Bradley Beal,
Jabari Parker a big?
No, Jabari Parker is a 3. I think he might play 4, but I'm pretty sure he's listed as a 3. And I believe he's been injured some this season too. So
no, he's been there the whole time.
He's been healthy the whole time.
Yeah.
Okay.
If anything, he might win Most Improved Player this season because he's averaging over 20 points a game.
Is this year 3 for him?
Year 3 is probably his second full year after that ACL injury.
Yeah, he had the injuries first.
The thing is, he's being overshadowed by Antetokounmpo, so you're not hearing so much about Jabari Parker.
Literally and figuratively, freaking 8-footer out there for
Right?
Antetokounmpo, just killing it this year. That team is fun to watch. It's also fun because even the timeouts are fun because then you get to see Jason Kidd, and who doesn't love Jason Kidd?
That beard.
that salt and pepper, black and white. It looks like the background from the music video for Straight Up by Paula Abdul with that black and white going back and forth.
Is he the only coach in the league that's not wearing a tie?
Well, he can't afford it because he's giving away all those dimes, I got jokes today.
Dun, 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 dun.
You don't like that one, huh?
It was a good try.
Yeah, but I would get rid of those two and put in Wade and
Yeah,
Embiid.
I mean, as a Wade advocate, it's sad not to see him in there. It's like the first time in 12 seasons that he hasn't been an all-star. And then I do think Embiid definitely earned a spot on that roster.
I feel like Wade is a victim of the voting process as much as anything. Those guys in Chicago wanted to see Butler more than they wanted to see Wade. And the Miami fan base is, I think, split. I think a lot of them still love Wade, but some of them are kind of done with him, unfortunately. And so he got no benefit from that and ended up on the wrong side of the rosters.
He's cool though. He'll go on vacation with Gabrielle Union. He'll be fine.
He'll rest his poor battered knees for 7 days and hopefully come back feeling better than before.
Exactly. All right. I think that wraps it up for the NBA portion.
I think up next is our 3 for 3. So Big Voice, take us away.
3 for 3.
I heard that. I was like, no. Shit. You got your 3?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, I'm ready. That's right. It is 3 for 3. Used to be called Who Got Next, but I think we are officially trash canning that. We're shithousing that segment and bringing in this new name for it instead because it just fits better. Kind of felt redundant.
It did.
Yeah. Kind of like this intro.
Not much more to say about that.
Yeah, right. Well, this is the segment where we tell you what we're looking forward to in the week to come in basketball news and views. Normally, Marie will give you a non-basketball perspective. However, since she hasn't been in the studio in about 2.5 months now.
Is it safe to say that she retired?
I mean, maybe. She might be... Yeah, she might be calling it a day like Brent Musburger.
Have to put her jersey up in the rafters.
Yeah, right. Well, the NBA insider, all-timer, in the rafters there at the spare bedroom apartment studios. However, she's not here, like I said, so we got 2 for 3, and Big Voice, take us away.
Not 1 for 3, not 2 for 3. It's 3 for 3 on the Stretch 5 podcast. 1 for 3. Brad's picks NCAA basketball.
All right, I think I must have gotten fouled because I actually got 4 for 3 here. I'm going to hit that free throw and get that honorable mention in.
4-point play.
Today, the free throw, honorable mention goes to today. I'm putting it first because it's happening in like 2 hours. Kentucky plays Kansas in Rupp Arena for the Big 12 SEC Challenge. Massive game, number 2 UK, number 9 Kansas. That game's at 6 p.m., 6:15, tips off on ESPN. You're not going to hear this before the game starts, but it is a huge game. Carlton Bragg Jr., as we discussed earlier in the podcast, is not playing for this game. And as we said, Azubuike is also out for the season, so Kansas is short of big men. UK's Bam Adebayo should have a monster game. We might be looking for like a 35-15 kind of game from him.
Who you got?
Oh, I got Kentucky. I think Kansas is coming in at half strength. Kentucky's coming in at full strength. It's at home. I think after a loss, Kentucky's going to be sharp. I think Kansas is discombobulated with all this nonsense going around their program right now. I think they're going to win it by like 10 or 15. Having said that, it'll probably be a 3-point game. So we'll see. My second game, or my first game really, is tomorrow, Sunday the 29th, 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox. It's number 3 UVA, Virginia, the Cavaliers. Tony Bennett's squad is going to Villanova, number 5 in the country, the defending national champs. Jay Wright and crew are going to be trying to knock out the Cavaliers and their pack line defense. It's going to be a heck of a game. I think the first team to 60 wins this thing. I think that Jay Wright's squad has a lot better shooters than Villanova, but Villanova is going to really, really restrict what they can do on offense. I think probably I want to take I'm going to take Virginia. I'm going to take them to win a close one, probably like a 64-60 kind of game, and give Villanova their 3rd loss of the season.
Where's the game at?
It's at Villanova. But I mean, Tony Bennett usually wins big games this time of year. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Hopefully I'm not proven to look silly. Second game, number 16 Duke at number 26 Notre Dame, Monday the 30th of January, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. That game is Duke has to go on the road tonight, Saturday, to Wake Forest, and then has to travel to Notre Dame, which is a much tougher game. They're ranked like number 14 in the AP and coaches poll. We go by KenPom, where they're number 26. But Duke has 5 losses for them in the ACC. They're struggling big time right now and without Coach K. So presumably this is going to be a loss.
You think so?
I think Mike Bray's team is going to just beat the crap out of Duke. I think they're a team that can score the ball inside and can also really, really kind of come down and defend hard in the half court. And Duke is not a team that's going to kill you in the transition game. They don't have a point guard. They don't have guys who are going to be able to run it out like that.
When you said Duke versus Notre Dame, the first thing that popped in my head was, man, I hate those programs. Like, those got to be 2 of the most hated programs in the country.
Well, for Miami fans, yeah, because they got that Catholics versus convict thing going on, and then everybody hates Duke. Yeah, it's funny because, like, my dad can't stand Notre Dame either. So yeah. he always calls them the damn Catholics. I got Notre Dame winning this one by about 12. I think it's not going to be close.
Coach K going to be stripping away those jerseys.
No locker, no Duke apparel.
He might not let him get back on the plane.
I'm going to say he's going to make them all. I'm trying to think what else they could even do at this point. He's going to say no flopping in the next game. They're going to lose by 40. My third and final game, probably the best game on the entire docket of games, even including Kentucky and Kansas, and that's number 8 Baylor at number 9 Kansas. Now, these teams are number 5 and number 2, respectively, in the AP and coaches polls. This is a game that will decide the Big 12 effectively.
Talk about teams with scandals.
Yeah, no shit. Kansas has won 13 Big 12 regular season titles in a row, which is nuts. The next closest was UCLA. They had 12 in a row. Now, that's under John Wooden in the 70s. And now Kansas has surpassed that and is looking to extend that streak. Baylor, on the other hand, is right now projected to win the league by multiple games, believe it or not.
They have a conference tournament?
Yes, they do.
They do? Okay.
They all do. The Big Ten didn't until recently, but they all do now. And Baylor has you're thinking of football where they don't have a championship game.
Yeah.
And that screwed them a couple of years ago with TCU and Baylor be on the outside looking in when it came to those the playoff. But, Scott Drew's Baylor squad is excellent. They were one of the last undefeated teams in the country. They have just smashed people this season. They lost to Louisville, I want to say, after they got out to a huge lead and Louisville came back. But No, I have that wrong. I have the other way around. They came back on Louisville and beat them earlier in the season, but it's been a strange Big 12 season with Kansas not looking like Kansas. Some of these other teams that should be good, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, just programs that normally are excellent, not being up to par. West Virginia's been good, Baylor's been good, Kansas has been good. And those three are the flag bearers and the forerunners for this season. But it looks like, unfortunately, Kansas is going to be without their two big men. So that's Wednesday, February the 1st at 9 p.m. on ESPN2. I've got Kansas in that game because they will be coming off a back-to-back loss situation, and it's at Fog Allen.
Yeah.
What?
Just that back-to-back loss comment. I see them losing to Kentucky, too. But...
Oh. I didn't even think about it. It was just automatic. Just
Right.
Just Steph Curry from the free throw line, just smooth as silk. That's all I got. All right. Who's up next?
2 for 3. Brian's picks. NBA.
Since you went for the 4-point play, I'm gonna go ahead and throw an extra game in there myself. There's actually a good game tonight. Actually not tonight. There's a good game on Sunday. 3:30 on ABC, you have OKC visiting the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Okay.
So if you like LeBron James versus Russell Westbrook, you're going to want to tune into that matchup.
It's the Needs Playmakers Bowl.
Right? The winner gets Carmelo.
Are they helped?
But that should be a fun matchup to watch. Anytime you get a chance to see Russell Westbrook do what he does, it's always something to see. Then, of course, LeBron James, it's with the whole turmoil that's going on in Cleveland, you want to see how they come out and play. Because another loss, it's just going to be more drama. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and go with OKC on this one, just because of what's going on in Cleveland. It seems like they're a little bit distracted, and so they might not come out and play a tip-top game.
Even if Cleveland, or even if Oklahoma City isn't the best team, they're more consistent right now than Cleveland certainly is.
Absolutely. So that's my special pick right there. Let me go into the other three that I got for you. On Wednesday, we have the Toronto Raptors facing the Boston Celtics, which is essentially a matchup for second place in the East. As bad as Cleveland's been playing, these teams have not taken advantage of that to kind of move and kind of push Cleveland towards the edge. So, Boston's, they're playing okay. Toronto has not been playing all that well recently. They're still 3 games back of Cleveland. But, these two teams are vying for that second spot. So it's going to be a good matchup. I think the game is in Boston on Tuesday. If I had to pick a winner...
You don't like either one of these teams.
I don't like either of those teams, but I'll go with Boston.
Yeah.
I'll go with Boston.
They've been proving it lately. They've been doing all right.
Yeah. They're starting to come around and play better basketball.
Right, is this game for the 3rd seed right now, or is Toronto still got a little bit of a lead there?
Let me see here. I got the standings pulled up right here.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure that's pretty close.
Yeah, so Boston's only half game back of Toronto for that second spot. If they win that game, they'll move up to the second seed.
That is a big stinking deal. Assuming they take. Well, actually, they'll be tied because they play Milwaukee tonight.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Milwaukee.
You're right. So we'll see what happens when they get to that game. But either way, it's going to be a big matchup as far as playoff seeding is concerned.
Hey, speaking of big matchups, breaking news. I hate to interrupt your 3 for 3 here, but Duke is trailing Wake Forest right now in the second half, 38-46. There's 17 minutes to go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Can you imagine if they lose to the freaking Demon Deacons?
Would love to be in Coach K's house right now to see how he's reacting.
He would be apoplectic, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Capital K, apoplectic.
He's thinking of what to take away next.
No more shoes.
My next game I have is next Thursday, or this Thursday coming up on February the 2nd. You have Golden State visiting the LA Clippers on TNT. That'll be a late game for all you guys that don't sleep, 10:30 at night.
That's me. I believe that game is a not Western Conference Finals, but I believe this is where I have the Warriors getting knocked off this season in the playoffs.
Yes, you do. In the
semifinals. You have that written down somewhere.
I have it in my notebook right here, just in case.
In your brain.
So this would have been an intriguing matchup if really the Clippers were healthy. They're missing Chris Paul.
Bug.
They're missing Blake Griffin. When you're trotting out Austin Rivers as your starting point guard, to take on Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant. I mean,
DeAndre Jordan, he's getting that first option on offense opportunity against the best.
Oh God. But I mean, he can do some damage because I mean, Golden State really doesn't have a big guy that's going to contain him.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do, Zaza Pachulia? What is he going to do?
I mean, he's going to go for 30, and then the rest of the team's going to score like 60.
I kind of see Golden State playing JaVale McGee a little bit more than they play Zaza Pachulia in that game just because of his length. But at the end of the day, I mean, Golden State has too much firepower when they're going against a team without Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. So I think they win that game pretty easily on TNT.
Probably a 15, 20-point margin at least.
Yeah, at least. But then again, you know, every once in a while, Golden State comes out with these games where you think they're going to blow a team out and they just kind of play to their opponent's level.
I told you, bro. I told you, man. I told you this team, they do not have the put a medium team away every time like they did last year.
I mean, one of Miami's wins on this 6-game winning streak is against Golden State.
Yep.
So
I watched the end of that game. I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. Dion Waiters. Warrior Slayer.
Waiters County. All right, but my third and final game we have is on Sunday. Two teams that were already mentioned previously, but it's a good matchup. You have the Clippers going against Boston. Both teams are playing decent. And like we mentioned, Clippers are missing key pieces. You have Doc Rivers coming back to Boston. We all remember he won a championship there in 2008 with the Celtics, so the fans still adore him.
This isn't the first time he's come back, is it?
No, he's definitely been back before, but it's always something. Plus, you got Paul Pierce on the roster.
Oh yeah.
So I think they might actually do something for Paul Pierce since he's retiring at the end of the year.
Can they put his banner? Is his banner retired yet? Or is his jersey retired? It should be.
It'll be right after this season. I'm sure they'll do that immediately.
I mean, it should be, and not for the Clippers.
No. He's barely getting any playing time with the Clippers. So
he had that one shot in Washington, and his career effectively ended.
Pretty much.
He called game, and then his game was over.
He's essentially retired.
Yeah.
If you want to speak about it. But
last year's Kevin Garnett, you know.
Yeah. But that should be a fun matchup. That's on ABC Sunday afternoon.
All right.
As much as I don't like Boston, I enjoy watching Isaiah Thomas play. He's been on a tear lately. He's approaching the franchise record as far as consecutive games played with at least 20-plus points.
Really?
That's saying something for
considering
a
Larry
Celtics,
Bird. Yeah.
For a Celtics franchise that has a lot of Hall of Famers on there.
How has Bill Russell and Larry Bird not had? I mean,
it's not even those two guys that hold the record. It's Kevin McHale.
Did they just have clunkers at some point? Like, that's amazing.
I don't know.
I believe that with McHale because he was kind of unstoppable in his prime. I mean, but the other two were too. Like, I can't believe I guess Larry Bird probably just had injuries and stuff.
Yeah. Or he was just assisting to Kevin McHale all the time.
Oh, that's true.
So
that's when you have two great players, sometimes one will take a back seat when the other's hot.
Yeah.
So.
And outside of Russell Westbrook and James Harden, I mean, I think you have to consider Isaiah Thomas as an MVP candidate the way he's been playing this season.
He's a candidate, but he's not a big enough name yet for anybody to give him any real contention. I mean, he's not even really in contention. He'll be that guy at the bottom of the list that pops up. Like he'll
get
February.
Like 1 or 2 votes.
Yeah. Like they'll show a list on ESPN or TNT, one of those games is going on, and his name will be there, but that he's not actually going to get any real shine.
Yeah, absolutely. So my pick with that one's got to be Boston. Again, Clippers just don't have enough firepower unless they get amazing games from like a Jamal Crawford, Austin Rivers, JJ Redick. They're not going to win this game, especially on the road. So I got to go with Boston with that one.
That makes sense to me. On that note, I believe that is the end of the Stretch 5 podcast for this week. As we said, no Marie Rush this week. But we do have Mr. Brian McCalla, our co-host.
We don't blast our teammates over here.
No, we just tell you they're at the grocery. I'm your host for this edition, Brad Sturgeon. Hey, have a good week. Watch some basketball and enjoy. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Stretch 5 podcast. All music production credited to Brian McCalla. Podcast production itself credited to Brad Sturgeon. Subscribe to us on iTunes or any other application for podcasts at Stretch 5 Podcast. Find us on Twitter at Stretch5Pod or by email at Stretch5Podcast@gmail.com.